Hey, I'm Todd Burrier, author of Three Circles Living, and if you are someone in your 30s, and this would be really relevant if you're in your late 20s, early 40s, but it's really, the 30s is a tipping point. And so if this is you and you're in your 30s, I'm just going to share a little perspective, and I hope it's of benefit for you from a quality of life perspective. My story is well documented, and it was around my early 30s that I really started working on the things that led to an amazing life. Until then, I was pretty much a train wreck. I could say that getting married to an amazing lady was a big part of my turnaround, and that's true. But also took action. And so what stimulated this, and this is a short message, but I hope it'll be powerful, is I was in the gym the other morning, and by the way, I've just recently turned 60, and I'm in there working out. And one of the guys I work out around is like 3 or 4 years older than me. The guy's in unbelievable shape. Really great guy, really humble. And there's another guy in the gym. He's a really nice guy. Seems to be a nice guy. I don't really know him. And he's talking to my buddy. He's going, it's so much easier to stay in shape, at our age. I'm like, immediately my radar goes up. And even though, I've got AC/DC cranking in my earbuds, I can hear this because they're talking loud enough. And he's like, yeah, because, we have time. I'm like, yeah, but it's a whole lot harder. I bust my butt in the gym, but it ain't easy. And he's like, yeah, when you're in your 30s and you've got a family and you're working hard in your career, you just don't have the time. And I'm like, that's a crock of you know what? That's the opposite of the truth. And, I really hope for your sake, if you're in your 30s and you're hearing this message, that you don't buy that lie, because that's a freaking lie. It's not even close to the truth. The bottom line is that's exactly when you have to get serious. Your physical peak is sometime in your 20s and 30s, or 20 to 30. That's when your physical peak is. And what does that mean? That means that all of a sudden, right, your body doesn't work quite the way it used to, right? You remember what it was like? Heck, when you're in your teens and your early 20s, you could just destroy your body and poof, bounce back the next day. I could stay up all night doing all kinds of stuff and show up somewhere the next day just fine. Man, you can't do that as easily as you get older. And the reason is your body isn't working as well. It doesn't absorb nutrients as well. It doesn't make the same amount of hormones. It doesn't process things the same well. Things begin to degrade from a physical perspective starting in your early 30s. So this is exactly the time when you have to get serious. It is a tipping point, because how you function in your 30s is going to have a whole lot to do with what your life looks like in your 40s and 50s and 60s and 70s and whatever. And I've been around taking care of yourself. It's been part of my sphere since I turned roughly 30. And that's been 30 years of doing that. And I can tell you, my life is fantastic because I figured this out. That's what I share in the Three Circles Living book and the audio book. But in your 30s, you have to at this point get serious about your nutrition. You have to start working out every day. You got to hydrate. You got to rest. You got to do the things that you need to do. And the reason is because this is when it's going to have the biggest impact. This is actually the easiest time to start, right? Because it doesn't wipe you out so much. If you wait until you're in your 40s or 50s and now you have another 10 to 20 years of degrading health, can you get in great shape at that point if you start from a terrible spot? Yes, there's been plenty of examples of that. You can do practically anything. The human being can do way more than we imagine, right? David Goggins. Go read David Goggins' book, Can't Hurt Me, where he talks about how most people have never given more than 40% of their capacity. He's right. He's absolutely right. But here, I just want to give you the understanding that this is the time to get serious, because this is going to have the greatest impact on your life. Right now, when you have a young growing family and when you are early in your career, this is when you can really develop yourself. Right? You focus on taking care of yourself physically and emotionally and developmentally, and now you show up better for your kids and your wife or your husband. Now you show up better for your career and your pursuits. Now you show up in a whole different way, and man, that builds your career way faster. Take it from me, I built my entire career around that, right? So your return is also going to be better. When you go to work out, A, you're going to have the energy to do it, and B, it's not going to wipe you out, right? And when I work hard in the gym, and at 60, I get the return of high productivity all day long. but not like I used to, right? I mean, it's just the way it is. There's no way to beat Father Time, but you know what? You can punch him in the face a little bit if you want. And so you'll have increasing productivity in your days, but over a longer span of time, and you'll have a more full life. So this is the time to start. Don't buy the lie that you don't have time. If you don't have time, it means you either A, don't choose to, or B, don't have the skills, the planning and prioritizing skills to know how to do it. And that's solvable, right? That is solvable. And just recognize that choosing not to, right? Because you don't think it's important, or you don't think you have time, or you think you're bulletproof still, which you probably already realize that you're not. The price of that is massive. It's massive, because that excuse is not going to hold any water in 10 years or 15 years or even in 5 years, when your body is breaking down and not working the way you want it to work, or when something really serious happens, which statistically there's a high probability if we don't take care of ourselves, then we become the statistic of cancer, heart disease, autoimmune, diabetes, etc. And then we live with that. So if you think you don't have time to take care of yourself now, try figuring out how to have time to manage disease state. When we don't do it, that's a whole nother animal. So hey, you may like this message, you may not like this message. That's okay. I'm just telling the truth. The truth is, the 30s is a tipping point. You have an opportunity to set a course where you live an amazing life. Or you can create the other one, right? Whereas you don't do the right things now, and then you begin to have a cascade of negative effects on your body. And over time, it begins to diminish your quality of life massively. And all you got to do is look around you at people who are 50 who haven't taken care of themselves, and look at the people who are 50 who have, and boom, you see the difference. So I hope that this message is helpful. If you need coaching, or if you really want to see a roadmap, it's in the 3 Circles Living book. Reach out to me, or go check out the book, the audio book, and the blog. But even if you don't do any of that, get serious about this stuff now. It's too important. It can make too big a difference. All right. Hope it's helpful. Take care of yourself.